Welcome back. This is my Fireside Chats, which is basically just me reading my book that I wrote. Last night we ended at the end of chapter two, so we're going to start with chapter three. Chapter three is the beginning of the end. Months before it all went haywire, Matt Singleton squinted at the television through his scratch glasses. The news anchor's voice, a distant hum beneath the pounding in his ears. And I am going to have someone check and make sure that you can actually hear my audio because, apparently day one, my audio was not working right. So let's see if they are up. So if not, I will stand here and you will see my voice and I will ramble and we will just get through this because apparently I'm special. And for whatever reason, using this new streaming app, it doesn't want to recognize my microphone every time. And there's not a way to check it beforehand, apparently, because no matter what I've looked at, it doesn't allow do so. So hopefully my audio is running and I'm not, looking like I'm rambling into nothingness here. But we'll start. At the beginning of the end, months before it all went haywire, Matt Singleton squinted at the television through his scratch glasses. The news anchor's voice, a distant hum beneath the pounding in his ears. Strange mutations in deep sea creatures, they said. Harmless anomalies, they insisted. His innate pattern recognition from his autistic brain and spending than 20 years reading between the lines as a police officer and psychologist, he recognized the careful construction of the reassurances, the deliberate gaps in information. His fingers tightened around the remote, leaving sweaty imprints as the screen filled with images of misshapen fish hauled from coastal waters, their bodies twisted in ways that made his stomach clench. They're lying, he murmured to the empty living room, his voice breaking the silence. The broadcast switched to footage of research vessels positioned over deep sea mining operations. A scientist in a wrinkled lab coat gestured to monitors displaying the microscopic organisms glowing an unnatural blue under specialized lighting. Her words were measured and clinical, but her eyes darted nervously to someone off camera. A finely tuned BS detector and hyper-focused mind began to race, connecting the desperate facts into a cohesive picture that made his chest tighten. While he wasn't a conspiracy theorist by nature, he knew this didn't pass the smell test. The mining operations, the mutations, the quarantine tents on the ports, the lack of real answers about the nature and origin of the virus formed a constellation of warning lights flashing red. Matt's fingers hovered over the keyboard. He needed to put the pieces together for his family's safety, but hesitated. What if he was wrong? What if he was becoming exactly like those New World Order fanatics or QAnon conspiracy theorists he always dismissed as digital doomsayers? Yet the evidence was there, undeniable, wasn't it? Or was his pattern seeking mind manufacturing connections where none existed? He rubbed his temples, caught between the rational investigator he'd always been and the terrified father he was becoming. That evening, Diane found him hunched over the laptop, dozens of browser tabs open to scientific journals, environmental reports, government bulletins. Matt? She touched his shoulder, her soft voice with concern. You've been sitting here for hours. He turned to her, struggling to translate the chaos in his mind into words she could understand. Something's happened. Something big. His voice cracked. Those fish mutations they're reporting, they're just the beginning. Evolution happens over millennia, not months. The denials, half truths, and misinformation machine is going into overdrive. The bot farms are out in force with every social media option open, opining we are safe. Number of site down, it's like they are struggling to contain the information now. So instead of that, just close down the servers, bottleneck the data, and hope people don't dig too deep right now. Diane's eyes flicked to the screen, scanning the headlines. You think it's serious? I think it's worse than they're telling us. He pulled up the document he found on the dark web. Look at this. The pathogen they found in the mutated sea life adapts to temperature changes that would kill most microorganisms. It appears to have survived deep sea volcanic vents, Arctic waters. The question I have, though, is this natural or created? That type of evolutionary adaptation doesn't make sense at all. Her hand tightened on his shoulder. What does that mean for us? It means, Matt said, his mouth dry, that we're already dead and don't know it yet. Matt's hands trembled as he scrolled through the images of bloated whale carcasses. Their skin split open like overripe fruit. This thing is climbing up the food chain. Fish, seals, birds dropping from the sky mid-flight, their organs liquefied inside them. Matt, liquefied, and the government still calling it anomalous but contained. And if it jumps to humans, Christ, Diana, it won't be like COVID. It'll be extinction. We need to start preparing, maybe even get the boys from Arizona. Diane sighed, her fingers massaging the bridge of her nose. She studied Matt's bloodshot eyes, the way his hands trembled over the keyboard, the empty energy drinks scattered around his workspace like archaeological evidence. Matt, she whispered, placing her palm over his clenched fist, feeling the rapid pulse beneath his skin. His stubble had grown past the point of intentional, and the same shirt he'd worn yesterday hung wrinkled from his shoulders. You need rest, love, she said gently. The world isn't ending tonight. We can make plans tomorrow. She squeezed his hand. David deserves this time with his brothers. He worked so hard to get here. Her eyes softened. Maybe your mind is just working overtime, connecting dots that aren't there. After what COVID did to you? She left the thought hanging between them. Matt's hand hovered over his laptop, fingers trembling. He closed the lid halfway, then opened it again, eyes darting between the screen's glow and Diane's concerned face. Maybe you're right, he said finally, shutting the computer with a soft click that felt like betrayal. Or maybe I'm right and we're already too late. His shoulders slumped as he looked up into her blue eyes, searching for certainty he couldn't find in himself. He would get the answers to his questions soon enough. 3 months later, the first human cases appeared. A researcher in a Boston lab collapsed during a press conference, blood trickling from her nose as she gasped for air. By nightfall, similar reports emerged from research facilities across both coasts, then from every major city worldwide. The next morning, Matt woke to news that all commercial flights had been grounded. At first, the public deaths, while the governments of the world, after the first public deaths, while the governments of the world went into spin mode, the Pentagon and news channels downplayed the threat more. People began dying, and even in ever increasing numbers. Then came whispers of survivors, people who'd contracted the virus but hadn't died. Government vehicles with blacked out windows whisked them away to observation facilities, surrounded by barbed wire and armed guards. News channels called them quarantine zones, but leaked footage showed laboratories, not hospitals. Online forums buzzed with testimonies from facility workers who claimed the survivors exhibited impossible abilities. Not human anymore, one anonymous post read before disappearing hours later. The military presence around these sites grew daily. Then that made Matt's stomach turn into knots. No way in hell was anyone going to find out if anyone in his family had changed. Sorry, got the text. Matt can only hope his family stayed safe, and he would do everything in his power to make sure it stayed that way. Then it happened. The virus had touched the Singletons' lives. Matt's phone vibrated against the coffee table. Brendan's face lit up the screen. His eldest boy never called. His thumb trembled as he swiped to answer. Through the speaker came ragged breathing, half-formed syllables, a voice crackling between octaves. Dad? I can't. She's not a gulping sound, then two words that stopped Matt. Matt's heart. Mom's dead. Bile rose in Matt's throat. He swallowed it down, his knuckles whitening around the phone. His legs carried him mechanically to the door where the carved wooden singleton key hanger hung. 15 minutes, he managed, his voice unnaturally steady. The call ended with his thumb's pressure. Keys jangled as he fumbled them from the hook, leaving the front door swinging open behind him. He arrived at his ex-wife's house to find Logan sitting cross-legged with a tablet in his lap, rocking in his favorite chair while Brendan stood guard at their mother's bedroom door, pale-faced and trembling. After embracing his eldest and whispering reassurance, Matt methodically gathered Logan's essentials: the weighted blanket, the backup power banks, the collection of devices that anchored him to the world. Matt prayed Logan's autism had shielded him from fully comprehending the horror in that bedroom. Though part of him knew, his son's perception often ran deeper than anyone suspected. Eventually, Matt had forced himself to enter Sarah's bedroom, searching for anything useful from the woman who'd been fighting this plague from the front lines as an ER nurse. She lay in a pool of her own fluids on the floor of her bedroom. Her girlfriend lay across her body, as if trying to help, then succumbing herself. Matt frowned as his search only found an additional power bank. His ex usually was a note taker scrawled on pieces of paper left on the dresser. But nothing was there, just an overstuffed room full of tacky knickknacks, jewelry, makeup, and clothes. Matt locked the door, pulled it closed, then told Brendan to get his stuff together. They were leaving. They packed up Matt's SUV with food, clothing, video games, laptops, sensory toys, the essentials only. They arrived at Matt and Diane's home without a word, as if the silence was needed. Brendan had begun to grieve, sobbing as soon as the door closed behind him. Logan seemed blissfully unfazed. He went to crawl into his dad's rocking recliner, swiping on his tablet to start a movie. Matt was grateful for his son's unique worldview, which included having no people permanence. Matt did what he could to help his children while their world burned. Matt made the call to 911 after he'd gotten his children out and safe. The 2-hour hold was a portent of things to come. Was a portent of things were getting worse by the day. Matt, not for the first time, wondered how long his family would be safe. Dad, wake up. Bubba's voice was insistent, cutting through the haze as dawn light slanted through the blinds. He held out Matt's phone. You might want to look at this. Dee's been texting you. She finally texted me thinking something was wrong. Are you okay? You look pale. Matt could see the anxiety forming on his son's face. Matt blinked, reaching for the device. His oldest son, a towering 6'5", his tousled hair, dark blonde hair catching the sun, hovered over him like a watchful sentinel. Matt thumbed the screen awake. 6 unread texts, 4 missed calls from his wife, 8 messages, 2 calls from his mother. A knot of guilt and disorientation tightened his chest. Man, he'd been out cold. A wave of nausea rolled through him, his mouth filling with saliva. He lurched to his feet, staggered into the bathroom, barely made it to the porcelain bowl before he vomited in a riot of technicolor bile and fluid. A sharp tang of stomach acid stinging his nostrils, he retched again, praying for relief, and then everything went black. When he came to, a damp cloth was pressed to his forehead, its cool weight soothing. Blinking, he tried to recall how he ended up sprawled on the cold tile. Diane's face hovered above him, familiar eyes, a mouth that only moved in his mind as her voice whispered inside his head. You're okay. Take it slow. Thank goodness you're alive. So many haven't made it. Guess you aren't immune like you thought, huh? He felt calm, as though her silent reassurance had drained the sickness from him. It was peaceful until the world dimmed once more and he slipped away. Diane straightened, crossed to the doorway where Logan stood, still as a statue. Aloud, she said, Daddy's okay. Then thought fiercely, I need him to stay alive. Logan's pale eyes widened, and Diane caught an image in her mind. Logan's bedroom carpet splotched with fluid, him doubled over in pain. Shock coursed through her. Could this be genuine? Two-way telepathy? Then the vision shifted, Logan's mother and girlfriend lying lifeless, pools of their own fluids spreading around them. Panic stabbed at Diane's heart. He had seen it. Logan had already lost so much. Diane had gotten sick about a week ago, and since she worked from home, it wasn't as traumatic as some people died in stores or while driving their cars. It was bad, getting worse in the outside world. Diane had been in the safety of her home, and no one had known anything bad had happened until Brendan had arrived home from school and found her. She felt so much shame because he had found his mother and her girlfriend dead not too long ago. Then her laying there much the same way. His scream woke her, but it wasn't an audible scream. It was internal panic, and it was then she realized she could hear his thoughts. Kneeling, she rolled Matt to his side, found a steady pulse. She rose and approached Logan and gathered him in a trembling embrace. He shuddered, then convulsed, a trickle of vomit dampening Diane's shirt. She held him tighter, whispering, "It's okay, baby. I'm so happy I can understand you." Fetching a towel, her fingers were steady now, guided by a newfound bond of understanding. Stripping Logan's damp shirt, she called back, "Bubba, can you grab some fresh clothes for your brother and the thermometer from the top of the fridge?" Bubba scurried off. Diane laid Logan's clothes aside, led him toward the tub, where his small frame quivered. At that moment, Brendan appeared at the door, 17, anxious energy coiled in his posture. Brendan had been the first to fall ill. Having been exposed while tending to his mother's remains, the virus had left its mark beyond just the physical symptoms. A new heaviness hung about him, a shadow that followed his movements. Through their newfound connections, Diane sensed the tangle of emotions beneath his carefully maintained exterior. The raw terror that history might repeat itself, warring with relief that Logan and Matt hadn't suffered the same fate as his mother. Diane could feel his anxiety welling up, seeing his father laying like his mother had been. She thought about his relief at seeing her walk in the door as he was reaching for his phone to call her to ask what he should do. He grimaced. I am not cleaning his room, he muttered, but passed Diane the clothes and the thermometer. Is Dad okay? Diane managed a frail smile. I think so. We need him to be okay because out there, everything's unraveling. People collapsing in their cars, hospitals turning into morgues, doctors, nurses, everyone dropping dead. It's like someone pushed fast forward on this tragedy today. Diane felt the creeping anxiety run through Brendan's thoughts. She met Brendan's worried eyes. Bubba, could you text your sister and check on her? Brendan nodded and slipped away. Diane turned back to her youngest, not her youngest child, guiding him through a quick shower, some fresh clothes. As she turned to grab the soap, she saw water droplets perfectly suspended in midair, glistening in the soft light as Logan furrowed his brow in concentration. Closing her eyes, Diane reached out. Logan, are you doing this? A rush of joy answered her. She opened her eyes just as the droplets spiraled back into the tub and flowed down the drain. What the hell is happening? She asked herself. She risked a quick glance at Matt, who was lying very still on the floor again. She hurried to finish bathing and dressing Logan, occasionally risking a sideways glance whenever Matt moved in her peripheral vision. Matt groaned and pushed himself upright as Diane finished buttoning Logan's shirt. The rag on his forehead slid to the floor. I feel like someone hit me with a baseball bat, ran me over with a monster truck, then dropped a wrecking ball on me, he croaked, managing a weak grin. Logan, now dressed and ready to leave, glanced at his father, smiled, then ran out of the bathroom. You look like death warmed over, Diane replied, her relief softening her voice. But I'm so glad you're alive. Her hand hovered against his cheek before she broke into a small laugh of triumph and terror. After Sarah and Bailey, I thought we'd had enough death, but it's everywhere today. I chose to go run errands, and it's chaos in the streets. The news is now screaming for lockdowns. Phone systems are being overloaded as people panic to check on their loved ones. I leave the house for one day, and this happens. Come steering wheel until my knuckles whitened, inching forward as horns blared around me. Some idiot in a Prius abandoned their car in the middle of the intersection, hazards flashing uselessly. On the sidewalk, a woman in scrubs sprinted past the gridlock, outpacing us all. My phone was buzzing with another emergency alert as the radio switched between breathless reporters, and emergency broadcast systems' monotone warnings. 3 miles from home, my gas gauge dipped toward empty, and a military Humvee rolled past. A soldier with a megaphone directing traffic away from the highway. I checked my watch. 90 minutes for what should have been 15. You weren't answering. I couldn't reach my boys. Mary kept ringing busy. Braden miraculously answered, then sent me the message that you were in the bathroom. He couldn't bring himself to check closer on you after Sarah. Your face kept flashing in my mind, then the boys, then Mary, then Sam. After that fiasco, I didn't even want to imagine how hard it would be to get to Arizona and my boys right now. Matt could see the concern on her face. Her world had exploded. His own head pounded with questions he couldn't answer. Matt eased to his feet, supporting himself on the sink, fighting the urge to collapse back down. He could feel the anxiety rising in his wife. All right, he said, voice raspy but steady despite the tremor in his hands. Let's take a deep breath. Put your hand on the tile. Feel its cold solidity. He wasn't sure if he was talking to her or himself. In, count to 4. Hold, 4. And out for 4. His own breath caught halfway through the count. I'm okay. He lied. Brendan and Logan are safe, and we'll reach your boys and Mary. He added, soon enough. Though he doubted it. Diane pressed her palm to the floor, inhaled deeply, exhaled several times. She opened her eyes slowly, and relief washed over her face, a relief he couldn't share. I think I'm good now, she whispered. Matt reached for the shower curtain. I'm going to shower real quick. Keep trying Mary and the boys, he asked, his tone hopeful. We will get through this together because that's who we are as a family, survivors. Diane's voice wavered, I know. She paused at the doorway, the water still running for you. She slipped out, pulling the door closed behind her. Matt, his thoughts still foggy from his collapse, stepped mechanically into the shower from the hall. From the hallway, Diane heard the distinct sound of water striking skin. A moment later, Matt's voice sliced the stream. What the hell? Are you trying to freeze me to death? He turned the handle to hot. Diane's clear tone drifted from the hallway. Just your favorite bath, Daddy. Ice cold. Diane laughed bright and unsteady, her first genuine laugh in a while. A fragile warmth in a world gone mad. Matt reached down and grabbed his body wash, tipped it into his rough cotton wash rag. Suds bubbled between his fingers as he pressed the cloth against his chest, working a creamy lather over his skin. Steam curled up in lazy spirals around him, fogging the mirror. When he twisted to face the shower head, a warm rush of water sluiced over his forehead and Payne. He lifted his hand instinctively to his temple, gasped as it came away flecked with bright red. He leaned forward, tilting his head under the spray to wash the blood from the tangled curls of his beard. The tiny rivulets ran warm down his neck and back, carrying rust-colored streaks into the drain until the stream flowed clear. The cut throbbed as he pressed his fingers against it, hoping the flesh would knit itself together without help. Not deep enough for stitches, he decided, but deep enough to be a problem. With urgent care shuttered and emergency rooms overflowing with virus-stricken, he'd have to make do. The half-empty tube of superglue in the junk drawer might be his only medical option. Wait, he remembered he had some steri strips. Matt didn't hear Diane's footsteps on the cool tile outside the shower. Dee, can you bring me some steri strips? Matt yelled as he didn't realize she was there until the shower curtain squealed open. Yes, I can. Her tone was equal parts exasperation and amusement. Curtain swung shut again. Matt stumbled, startled, and Diane's laugh echoed off the white walls. Easy, you big dummy. You don't want a matching set. Drawer slid open. Matt heard the crinkle of plastic as she extracted 2 pale adhesive strips and set them on the edge of the countertop by the sink. The bright bathroom light glinted off the metal of the sink faucet. You'll need to get out and dry off before I can stick these on, she called through the glass. He reached up, twisted the knob, and water halted with a soft clank. Matt grasped the threadbare towel, draped over the shower rod, already damp, and wrapped it around his waist. He hopped out onto the cool floor, toes meeting the tingle of wet grout. Spying a fresh hand towel on the porcelain countertop, he patted the cut above his brow until the flow of blood slowed to a trickle. Diane leaned in, lifting the steri strips from its sterile backing. She pushed out her lower lip in a mock pout. No show this time, Professor? You want me to kiss your boo boo? She teased, her voice softening as she moved closer. Her palm found his chest, fingers curling slightly into the damp hair there. Nope, I don't want your germs. Ew, cooties. My face will fall off. He cracked a grin, though his head still pulsed with heat. With precise movements, Diane applied the steri strips to Matt's wounds. Her exhale carried the weight of everything unsaid. The playfulness had evaporated, leaving behind the raw truth of their situation. Matt dragged the towel across his beard, soaking up the remaining droplets while watching her eyes dart toward the door, already planning their next move. Have Mary or the boys answered yet? Diane shook her head, brow creased. Messages aren't going through. We may have to drive to Mary's. At least Mary's still here. We can manage to go anywhere. If we can manage to go anywhere, it's local at least, right? She sighed and closed the door behind her. Left alone, Matt slumped over the sink, his reflection, a pale, worn version of himself, ran a hand over his stubble jaw, and spoke aloud to the man in the mirror. You look like shit. Feel like shit, but no time for pity. Toughen up, Buttercup. He dressed quickly in jeans and a sweatshirt, then stepped into the hallway. Their youngest, Logan, stood waiting with her bright yellow TV remote, clutched in one hand, a dirty sock spinning in big circles in his other. Okay, give Daddy a second, Stinky, Matt said, reaching down to tousle the little boy's hair. Logan smiled and scampered ahead down the hallway. Matt followed him into the kitchen, his head still hazy. At the counter sat Logan's speech assistant's tablet. Its plastic case dented but sturdy. Matt pointed towards the device. Can you use your words and tell me? The boy patted over, tapped the screen, cycling through pictograms. A hand for help, a TV for movie. Soft electronic voice chirped, help, movie. Good job. Let's pick a movie. But when Matt walked into the living room, the glossy screen blared the emergency alert system, an ominous orange banner flashing across a field of static. Shrill beeping messages scrolling, stay indoors, avoid travel, martial law may be imposed. Well, shit. Matt's breath caught. Okay, buddy, let's try the office TV. They walked into the adjoining office. He flicked through the inputs while Logan climbed onto the couch cushions. Over his shoulder, he called, Diane, any luck calling Mary and the boys again? Looks like we won't be going anywhere at the moment. Logan's bottom lip trembled. Matt hurried to soothe him. In the doorway, Diane appeared, her face drawn. Finally got through. Mary's fine, still here. Sam hasn't made it home yet. She can't reach him. She was panicking and told her how awful the roads were for my 15-minute drive, and it's likely he's just stuck in traffic. And with cell service being unreliable right now, she just needed to stay calm and keep trying. Let her know once we have a plan. We will let her know and work out how to get us all together. Glad she's okay. I'm sure Sam will be okay too once he gets out of the city limits. Should be better. What about the boys? David's phone is pinging his location close to their apartment, but no reply yet. Seth is pinging at the hospital, apparently. Not sure I like that idea. And Maddie? Her tone flickered between worry and wry humor. Just sent for apocalypse means. Little gallows humor just to make it through the day. So at least I know where they are. I texted David and Seth, but they haven't gone through just yet. Matt's lips curled upward through the smile, though the smile didn't reach his eyes. Well, we know where they are at least, and at the moment they're alive. I know you don't like that we're so far away, but at least they have each other. Diane's fingers twisted around each other. True, at least they're together. I think I taught them well enough. Her eyes fixed on a point beyond the wall. It's not far, a day, maybe two. Once things settle, we can reach them quickly. The muscles in her throat worked visibly as she swallowed. I'm glad they're alive. Once we know what's happening, we'll figure out how to bring them here or go to them. He nodded and clicked the streaming menu. For now, we'll stay put. Too much chaos right now. They retreated to the small office where Logan's eyes lighted at colorful cartoon thumbnails. Diane paced the living room while Matt tucked the boy in with blankets and onto the now confiscated rocking recliner Matt had in his office for clients in crisis. Logan indicated by grunting on the movie he wanted to watch. Matt hit the play button, then exited back to the restart button and set the standard definition playback. The subtle scripting behavior helped soothe his youngest as he began to softly rock in the chair. Then Matt slipped quietly behind Diane, wrapping his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. She exhaled. She exhaled, pressing back into him. "This sucks," she whispered. "We'll get through it," he said softly. "They're safe. You know you gave them the tools to survive, and we'll all be together soon." She tilted her head against his chest. "I know, but I don't have to like it." He kissed the top of her head, the muted glow of the TV painting their silhouettes on the wall. Outside, the world felt uncertain, but inside, they had each other. 3 weeks later, Matt stood in the kitchen watching Brendan and Logan eat breakfast, their faces illuminated by the pale morning light. Brendan, tall and solemn even at 17, sensed his father's tension and ate silently. Logan, just 15, rocked slightly in his chair, sensitive to the changing atmosphere in the house. The last few weeks had brought so many changes to the boys' lives. They had lost their mother, had been changed in ways that shouldn't be humanly possible. "Dad?" Brendan's voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed his fear. "Is it true what they're saying online? Are people changing like us?" Matt hesitated, weighing truth against comfort. "Some people who get sick are experiencing alterations to their bodies. Scientists working to understand it, but I think they're trying to keep the panic to a minimum. Can't say I like the internet and can't say I like the internment that's been happening." "Are the others dying like Mom?" Brendan asks, already shouldering the burden of knowledge beyond his years. Matt nodded grimly. "The death toll is significant. Some survivors developed abilities, mutations like yours, your brothers. I seem to be the exception. Your sisters, step siblings, and Sam all made it through exposure too. I know we've lost your mother and grandparents, but compared to what's happening out there," he gestured vaguely toward the window, where another military convoy rumbled past. "We're among the fortunate few. We are going to stay hidden as long as we have to." Logan hummed silently, his fingertips gliding across his tablet screen as he scrolled through videos. Though nonverbal, his eyes tracked every conversation with unmistakable comprehension. In the air, one of Logan's sensory toys turned over and over, letting the liquid go from top to bottom rhythmically. While seeing him use his power so casually, Matt marveled at both his boys' composure given the state of everything around them in the last 3 weeks. Matt stared at the calendar on the fridge, counting to the 21 red X's that marked the day since their world collapsed. The younger generation had somehow weathered the viral storm, Diane's boys, Mary and Sam included, while death had claimed the elders. His mother gone, Diane's parents too. Sarah's mother remained a question mark, but she had not reached out to the boys, so she was presumed dead. Those frantic first days of hourly calls had given way to scheduled check-ins, their conversations now strict to essentials. Location, symptoms, supplies, survival had become their only language. Front door slammed. Diane stood in the hallway, keys dangling from her fingers. "No one can go anywhere," she whispered, moving to wrap an arm around Logan. "The roads are—" She swallowed. "I counted 7 ambulances on the way home. They released us right before the broadcast. It looks like they're going for containment. Past the urgent care and 2 hospital ER entrances that are barricaded now on the way. They're moving to the next phase, and we need to be ready." Matt guided her into the kitchen out of earshot. Sam called. "They've got refrigerated trucks behind the hospital now by their house." His throat tightened. It looked like they stopped trying to flag content. Now people on social media are relaying stories of maternity wards. Every infected pregnant woman is miscarrying, without exception. "What about afterwards?" Diane's knuckles whitened around the counter's edge. "My best guess? If you don't die and change like we did, you become sterile. Everyone who survives, both sexes." The words felt like stones in his mouth. This isn't just a pandemic, it's extinction. The following afternoon, the broadcast cut to an emergency statement. Quarantine zones around every metropolitan area were being established effective immediately. On screen, Match watched hazmat suited figures unspooling chain link fencing around downtown. A woman with a toddler on her hip clawed at the shoulder sleeve. He shook her off without turning his head, the respirator mask rendering him faceless. Diane's phone lay silent on the counter. At night, he'd find her hunched over maps, tracing highways with her fingertips, calculating distances. Brendan's eyes were perpetually red rimmed, and Logan's rocking had intensified to a constant motion. Pantry shelves thinned. Outside their windows, military vehicles rumbled past twice daily. Matt had unplugged the doorbell after men in hazmat suits came collecting special cases from the Hendersons next door. He'd seen the clipboard, the way they checked boxes labeled mutation status. That night, he'd moved the Sig Sauer from the safe to under their mattress. Journey west to Diane's children loomed inevitable, but Matt knew today wasn't the time. The roads between them crawled with desperate survivors from military checkpoints and rumors of quarantine zones being prepped where people like him and his wife and the boys disappeared into unmarked vans. He ran his fingers along the solar inverter's display, checking the battery levels, still at 87% despite 3 days of clouds. Basement shelves sagged under the weight of canned goods, water jugs, and the first aid supplies he'd been quietly accumulating since January. In the garage, 4 red gas cans stood sentinel beside the generator installed last summer after lightning had fried the neighborhood transformer. Just being practical, he told Diane. Then her eyes, through though her eyes had said paranoid. Now her fingers traced the back hand pump on the well with a newfound appreciation. It was 2 days later when the tornado sirens began to howl with the distinctive noise. Warning, stay indoors. Keep all windows and doors locked. We are in a martial law curfew. If you are out, you will be arrested. Essential personnel will need to report to nearest staging area locations. Locations will be sent by text. Police, fire, and National Guard members are to report to your stations for assignment. We are under martial law at this time. Fuck, Matt muttered as he pulled away to hunt for their phones. Just as he reached them, Diane's buzzed. Panic shot through him as he read the notification. Hey, Mom, I know I panicked you the other day when I didn't do the check-in, so I'm preemptively texting you I'm okay. Maddie and Seth here. I'm okay. Maddie and Seth are here, and we are safe. They've locked us in our apartment right now. Glad I stocked up at the store. Love you. Diane, Matt called. David texted they are fine and locked in Maddie and Seth's apartment. Great. Now they're sending out the alert over cellular networks too, apparently, Matt mumbled to himself as the EAS alert popped up on the phone. Diane sprang to him, nearly knocking him over. She snatched up her phone and opened the thread. Began typing furiously, tears tracing down her cheeks. Diane's oldest boys, Matthew and Seth, were in Arizona, and David, the youngest, had gone to spend the summer with them to train for gymnastics. For the moment, they were all safe. Over the last few weeks, they'd each gotten sick and survived. Matt's chest tightened with warring emotions, relief that they were alive, colliding with terror with what they'd become. He paced the floor for hours after Maddie casually mentioned moving furniture without touching it. After Seth described the rush of electricity through his fingertips. And David, the boy, had admitted to borrowing supplies from 3 different stores in under 10 minutes. Matt had lectured them about discretion, his voice steady even as his mind screamed. Was he protecting them or enabling something monstrous? Were these gifts or mutations that should be contained? He couldn't bear the thought of them in quarantine and continued to caution them on using their powers in public and staying in as much as possible. Diane peppered them with the same frantic questions. Do you have supplies to last for a few weeks if necessary? Has anyone seen you use your powers? Are you staying inside? As replies began to roll in, Matt wrapped his arms around her. He kissed the crown of her head, then strode over to the TV to scan the latest news and figure out how to get to her boys as quickly as possible. Diane began pacing in the kitchen, waiting for more replies. The national emergency broadcast crackled with a piercing beep, 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 while the scrolling alert repeated across the bottom of the screen. Same message bellowing from the siren speakers, every channel repeating the same message. Well, that's enough of you, Matt sighed, clicking off the television. Diane re entered almost immediately, her tear soaked face softened by relief. She slipped her arms around Matt's waist. He pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead as they held each other. Everyone's safe as far as we know, he said in his most reassuring tone. All we can do now is stay together, stay hidden, and hope it doesn't get any worse. At least they're not herding us all into some massive venue like a mall or a stadium. That would be hell, Diane agreed with a shudder. Too many people. Definitely, Matt replied, tilting her chin up for a soft, quiet kiss on the lips. Something tells me it's almost time to make our move. They are barely keeping a hold on what they have right now. This isn't the kind of situation you can govern or occupy your way out of. I promise we will figure out how to get to Mary and them, but right now, we have no choice but to wait. Matt thought to his wife, I understand, but that doesn't mean I have to be happy about it. Her thoughts pushed back against his, sharp with frustration. The Singletons would wait for now, but not forever. They need more supplies, intelligence, and a clearer picking everything that they had. The only thing Matt knew was to wait for the right opportunity, then don't look back until everyone was together. And that is chapter 3. It's kind of a flashback chapter to the beginning of, the Singleton journey. Chapter 4 is more of that, but I will do that one tomorrow night. I hope you all are enjoying it. And oh, where is that? And I appreciate everyone coming to see this that came to see it. Oh, I like that one. See, I'm finding new things in this app. I'll figure it out eventually. Hope everyone has a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow night for chapter 4. Good night.